Today we have a traditional review of incidents and disasters that took place on our planet in the last 24 hours. In Italy there was a crash of a jet airplane in the north of the country, near Turin. The moment of the crash was captured on video. It is known that the crashed jet was part of the Tricolore flight group of the Italian Air Force. In the video you can see how the plane deviated from the group and began to descend over the airfield, and then sharply fell to the ground. The pilot managed to eject at the last moment. At the moment, the Italian military has not provided information about the pilot's condition. Nevertheless, the media reports that a car with a family in it was hit when the plane crashed. As a result of this collision, a 5-year-old girl was killed. Hurricane Lee, despite its weakening to storm status, still reached the shores of America. The northeastern states of the United States, especially New England, faced its aftermath. Hurricane Lee also affected the Atlantic coast of Canada, including the province of Nova Scotia, which has already experienced terrible wildfires this year. It was in this region that the most problems were reported. More than 120,000 residents were left without power, and coastal areas faced giant waves and wind gusts of up to 130 kilometers per hour. Some areas received up to 60 millimeters of rain in a matter of hours, causing local flooding. Locals have shared videos showing water streams entering populated areas, with water levels rising by a meter in some places. Authorities have had to close some roads and bridges to reduce risks. The situation in the state of Massachusetts, which is also in the U.S., is similar. Here, too, additional safety measures have been taken because of Hurricane Lee. Forecasters expect that closer to Sunday evening the situation will stabilize, but we will follow the development of events. The dire predictions come in the wake of the catastrophic flooding that hit Libya. The country is now facing a terrible epidemic, and there is a high risk that the number of viral infections will increase dramatically due to the unsanitary conditions in the devastated areas. The situation in the worst affected cities remains critical despite the efforts of rescuers and medics who have arrived from different parts of the world, including neighboring countries and Europe. Russia has also sent its rescuers to the devastated areas, sending an American flight to Libya. Hurricane Danielle hit the country on September 10th and caused the most damage to the towns of Al-Baida and Derna. According to the latest data, the number of dead is more than 11,500 people, and another 20,000 are considered missing. Scientists note that the consequences of the hurricane could have been less destructive if the nature and infrastructure in these areas were more resistant to such amount of rainfall. Some regions received more than 400 millimeters of rain in 24 hours, although the annual average in Al-Baida is about 540 millimeters. In the city of Derna, dams failed and swept away homes, roads, and people. Nearly 30,000 people were left homeless overnight. The question of who is responsible for such terrible consequences remains a burning question. One must ponder whether the authorities should have better prepared for possible disasters, in addition to blaming nature. Your opinions and comments are welcome. A major fire in St. Petersburg has been successfully extinguished. The fire occurred on Bukarestskaya Street in the south of the city, where a shopping center and a restaurant were located. Witnesses of the event share impressions and visual recordings, emphasizing the vividness of what happened. The fire broke out just after midnight and within an hour and a half engulfed the entire building, covering an area of about 1,000 square meters. More than 60 firefighters were sent to fight the fire, and it took about 5 hours of intensive work to put out the fire. Fortunately, there were no casualties in the incident, as visitors to the building managed to leave before the fire spread to the shopping center. However, witnesses reported that there was a pet store on one of the floors and the fire killed animals. There was a tragedy in India where a boat carrying people capsized on the Bagmati River in Muzaffarpur district. There were at least a few dozen people on board at the time of the incident. 4 people died in the disaster and their bodies have been recovered. 15 passengers were able to be rescued, but 12 others are still missing, including children who were on their way to school on the other side. Footage available to us shows the search operation underway and officials have arrived on the scene to provide assistance to the families of the victims and survivors. It is still unclear exactly what factors led to the disaster and why the boat capsized. In another event, an environmental disaster has emerged in the Americas due to high temperatures and drought leading to the disappearance of water in the largest river on the planet, the Amazon. Authorities in Peru have sounded the alarm as water levels in the river are rapidly dropping. Experts warn that this could potentially lead to serious consequences. It is possible that part of the Amazon will become so shallow that it will no longer be navigable, which in turn will affect the lives of local residents, as food and essential goods are delivered to some regions exclusively by water. There is a risk that settlements will become isolated and the prices of necessary goods will start to rise sharply. This footage was shot in the city of Iquitos, where the lowering of the water level is becoming most noticeable. Many boats and ships are stranded. Engineer Marco Paredes, head of Senami Loreto, emphasized the potential risks associated with this situation. According to him, the water level in the Amazon River in the area is dropping by 10 to 15 centimeters every day. If this trend continues, the river level could drop by 3 meters in as little as a month. The National Emergency Operations Center strongly recommends refraining from river transportation until the situation stabilizes. Residents of areas such as Calpa, Tanchiacu and San Marcos are also advised to stay away from the river during this critical period. The situation in Algeria remains tense due to the ongoing wildfires. Once again, forests are burning in Majaya, and there are several pockets of fire. The fire is so powerful that the neighborhoods around the fires have soaked the sky with a purple hue. Also worth looking at is another area of Algiers, Tizi Ouzou, where the fires have gotten so bad that they have begun to threaten nearby villages. This is a real tragedy for locals who are still recovering from this summer's devastating fires. At least 30 people were killed in the July fire disasters, and there are thankfully no reports of casualties at this time. We hope no such reports will ever appear. Friends, how do you feel about empathy and compassion for people affected by disasters beyond nationality or geography? How important is empathy and humanity in today's seemingly disconnected world? Is it possible to find common ground amidst all the differences? The situation in Libya provides an opportunity to reflect on how such tragedies can be prevented and people kept safe. What do you think can be done to avoid such disasters? Share your opinions in the comments. May peace and goodness accompany you and your families, and don't forget to take care of our common planet and remain human beings with a capital letter.